Welcome to Beyond the Shelf. I'm Dawn.
And I'm Jenny.
And we are, as always, very excited today. That's our word. We are here with the executive director and founder of OHuddle, Sara, Reith.
I'm grateful to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us.
We're often very excited. That's our word that we always use. We should have a thesaurus.
I think we've done better, but like our very first podcast 2 years ago, we're like, we're excited. I'm like, oh dear.
Excited is a good thing to be.
I guess.
That's not a bad thing to be.
Enthusiasm.
Let's get started by you telling us a little about what OHuddle is.
Yeah, OHuddle is a one-to-one mentorship organization that matches school-based youth with a volunteer mentor coming in to meet that youth for about an hour once a week during the school day.
Was this your brainchild? You came up with this idea?
Yeah. So I'm a school psychologist by trade, and I worked in clinical psychology before I was in school psychology. And something that was really surprising to me, going from the clinical world in lockdown inpatient psychiatric to working in the schools, was I really thought that I was serving the deepest need of mental health and behavioral health needs in clinical. But I was shocked when I came to schools and recognized that there's a lot of unmet need in schools. Mm-hmm. And serving as a school psychologist, I'm big into data. I really love data trends. And I always say I would rather have, data than flowers. And so when I'm looking at my data and I'm trying to figure out, wow, we've got this unmet need. What do we do with it? I found too, a lot of trend around trauma and also poverty was resulting in kids not making growth no matter what we were throwing at them academically. Mentorship is the number one research-based intervention to reduce what we call ACEs, or adverse childhood experiences. Mm-hmm. And so I really wanted just somebody to come in and serve in a mentorship capacity so that we could reduce those ACEs and activate learning. And so that was really the inception point around how OHuddle came to be, was me trying to get somebody else to come in and do it. When we did not find that, we were able to create it in a grassroots way that got really big quickly and in an unexpected way.
Wow.
How many schools do you serve?
We are now at 22 schools. We're in 10 school districts here in Wayne County, and we're only in Wayne County.
So what age group does this usually start at? And then does it go through till graduation?
It does go through to graduation. It was really important to us that we not have a drop-off point. And so if we're growing to a new place and the superintendent says, well, let's just start in one building, we'll always start at the high school level and then grow down. Because what we don't want to happen is we don't want a kid to have this as something that really makes a difference for them and then have that go away when they transition to a new building. Mm-hmm. But, in most school districts right now, we are a K through 12 model because we know that prevention is a great way to make sure that, again, we're activating all of those other elements that are really strong towards kids being able to thrive and have overall positive outcomes.
Mm-hmm. K through 12. So how many mentors do you currently have?
We're sitting right around 430 mentors right now.
That is amazing. Mm-hmm. So they're not all from Orville, I assume.
They're not all from Orville.
Right. Okay. Mm-hmm. Does the same mentor try to stay with the same student? I mean, even K through 12 or 6th through 12th grade or whatever.
A lot of them do. Okay. Absolutely. And so our mayor, Matt Plybun, has been with, a couple of students for multiple years. Mm-hmm. I feel really proud, actually, that the mentors have a strong enough experience that over 90% of them return for 3rd and 4th and 7th and 8th years at this point. So we get a lot of feedback that they feel like they're getting, as much or more out of what they expected to come and give. Mm-hmm. And so that's a good feedback loop. That's good for humans.
So the mentors come during the school day when it's best for a student to meet with them, right?
Yeah. And I think that's what the model has been really unique in, is there are lots of mentorship programs, but what I felt really passionately about was we need to catch kids where they are. Mm-hmm. We get a huge drop-off point if we're trying to do something after school and transportation becomes an issue, or for a myriad of reasons, the kid is not able to be there. And so if we catch kids at school, then what that means is that we have high fidelity, and it means that all of the labor of I expected to come and my kid didn't show up and I feel disappointed by that, or vice versa, is virtually eliminated, because we're able to make sure that we're serving in the schools during the school day. And then we can fan out after school with other things. But we keep that our prime time, is a non-academic time during the school day.
So what safeguards do you have in play? Like if a child would come to their mentor and say, I think I'm going to hurt myself, or I want to hurt somebody else. I mean, obviously, these are just volunteers. These are not psychologists or psychiatrists. So what is your script for dealing with that.
For sure. So we always have that conversation out the gates as we're doing orientation with our mentors. And I think a big part of it too is that we have a site coordinator who is dedicated to a specific school building. So we're actually 21 women now on our staff that are working in a building 4 or 5 days a week that are governing those mentor relationships. And so when we're orienting a new mentor and we're saying mentorship is not mental health, but mentorship oftentimes uncovers mental health that kids have built armory around. And so as a trusted adult, if or when the situation comes about where the student says, I feel unsafe around this person at home, or I feel like I'm going to hurt myself or somebody else, we're always in real time activating that site coordinator to be mobilized to serve that need. It's paramount to trust for us too. So we always tell the student before we tell another adult, and we do it in real time. So if a student came to me and said, actually this was a real situation. I brought a knife to school because somebody's bothering me at the bus stop, and they're not going to bother me today. And so he tells the mentor this, and the mentor, fortunately, did exactly what we trained to do and said, well, you know what, that's a really big thing. And do you know what could happen if somebody finds that knife or if it's misused, and what could happen to you? And so let's walk through this together. And the student might say, no, please don't tell. I trusted you. You're allowed to be mad at me, but part of my job is keeping you safe. And I really couldn't live with myself if something were to happen that I could have prevented. So let's go do this together. Or I can tell on my own, what's your element of choice in this? What's really been interesting is a big part of what we do in mentorship is around what is called the 40 developmental assets. So here's research that is this undercurrent of if kids have these 40 elements in their life, they're more likely to thrive, they're less likely to be violent. And so if kids have 31 to 40 of these assets, they are only 7% likely to be violent. But if they have only 10 or under of the assets that we work on with them, they are over 60% likely to be violent. We see that in our local data too. And so over the course of the past, year or so, we've had 20 or more instances of potential violence that a student has shared with their mentor that then we were able to get ahead of and make sure that that did not turn into a terrible consequence for someone. Wow. Yeah.
Did you say when OHuddle started? I forget.
So it was 10 years ago,
okay.
A little bit more than 10 years ago now, that, we had just kind of this perfect storm of more advanced need in the schools at Worcester City Schools and less resources. And so...
Yeah. So have you seen a decrease in bullying in the last 10 years? As a result of OHuddle?
So I think what we've seen an increase of, we don't measure the metric of bullying because I think sometimes the phrase of bullying can be something that's misunderstood. It's very broad. Yeah. Bullying is persistent. Bullying is something that is a power dynamic. And so a lot of people say bullying, and what they mean is
somebody just picked on me.
Somebody picked on me. Right. Somebody is being unkind to me. And what I will say is I have seen over time definitely an increase in students feeling their personal power and being activated, and being resilient, and also being a person who is of service to others. Those are two metrics that we do measure that are measurable. And so looking at those as kind of key performance indicators, we definitely have seen an increase both individually in students and then over time in our overall data. And that's what we want to see. We want to live in a community that has those two things increasing: service to others and resilience.
So your mentors are volunteers. How do the students become a part of the program? So
we want to normalize mentorship because anyone who has been anyone has had a mentor, right? So LeBron James had a mentor. Neil Armstrong had a mentor. Beyonce definitely had a mentor, right? And so the nomination process for us, it is mostly coming from schools, and the schools actually get to choose who has the next match. But students will come in and they will nominate themselves. Parents will call and say, I want my child to have a mentor. Youth pastors or people from the outside community will call in. It always goes through the conduit of the school counselor in that building. And then we have a meeting every single month where we go over the data for students and we look for successes and opportunities. And that's where we decide, we say we have 3 mentors coming down who just were trained. Who are our next 3 kids that we definitely want to have the match on the basis of these dynamics?
Do you find that you have more of a need on the student side than the mentor side, or do you have a surplus of mentors? Or?
We do not have a surplus of mentors. I have a wait list of 135 kids. Wow. We always have more, so that number has kind of tended to stay a little static lately because many less people are volunteering than they used to be. And so that's hard for us. It's hard because we are the largest volunteer organization. That's a week-to-week organization in the county. And so we feel really proud of that. We feel proud that we do have so many people who rise up and say, I'll come and help, but I always have more need. And that's really challenging. A kid will look at when our trainings are, when our orientations are just on the Facebook calendars and online, and they'll say, I saw that there was a training yesterday. Do you have my mentor yet? They'll come to the main office or to the mentor OHuddle office and say that. So that's kind of heartbreaking when we know that kids are so thirsty for that relationship, and we're trying to put some Band-Aids while we're waiting for the volunteer mentor to come.
Is the OHuddle office in the school?
Every school, every one of those 24 schools has an office that is dedicated to OHuddle. Mm-hmm.
How can somebody contact you to mentor? What are their steps they need to do to reach you?
OHuddle.org is where it's all going to be at. And so right at the top, you see a button that says Be a Mentor. It really is a finite time frame that you need to mentor in. And so if you have a lunch break once a week, we find a way to ask for it. If you say, well, really only Tuesdays, at 10 o'clock are going to work for me, I've got a kid for you. And so the initial part is always signing on. The initial orientation is really only about an hour to 90 minutes long, and then you're in because we do an on-the-job training model with that site coordinator who's there, who will give you a little bite-sized chunk of what you need to know to match with your student every single week you come in.
And if you come in and say, I want to volunteer, but I really want to stay in my school district that I live.
We'll honor that for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's phenomenal. The name OHuddle, the O part is not Ohio.
No, it's Odyssey Huddle. And so we say that everybody's on a journey, that we all have our seasons of spring and winter, and everybody has hard seasons. We're not about fixing broken kids. Kids have infinite potential. And so the Odyssey is really to remind us all that we're not here to fix broken kids, and we're here to walk alongside somebody on their journey, and that we all need a huddle to do that. You pick who you have like interests with. You pick who somebody who is putting a mirror in front of you and says, I see this in you. I see you as a little bit better than you see yourself. And so that's what we want, to be able to build good humans. And there's an undercarriage of social work that really propels that up. And that's where, as a psychologist, I feel really passionate about how do we even the playing field? How do we promote equity? How do we ensure that we are really peddling hope so that a kid recognizes, if I have been through hard things, or if I'm walking through something hard right now, I can use that to propel myself into being the best version of who I want to be. And that helps everything else to make sure that we're putting into perspective what that school experience looks like and what we're really walking towards.
Do you have rules for only men can mentor boys and only women can mentor girls? Or
we don't. We will honor the preference of a mentor or a student, but there are a myriad of girls who could really use, an older dad-like figure who says, I know how to treat somebody well, and I'm going to model that for you. Just the same, there are lots of boys who need a grandmother or a mother figure, and prefer one to another, and so we don't match on the basis of gender, but we do have a rule of 3, which means that we only meet in public places, and when we are always having that site coordinator as the middle person. And so mentors don't transport kids. They don't have the phone numbers or don't share on social media with our students until that student crosses the finish line as 18, and then they're friends. And so that's a really lovely threshold that we all cross together when a student is graduating, that we offer to the mentor, are you okay sharing phone number? And we'd love to give you a gift certificate for your first lunch independently together. And so that's a really cool moment in time that we have for our seniors.
Do several mentors take on several?
We do have some that will take on several students. We usually 2, usually not more than 2, unless you're the amazing Andy Stuhler, who we all know and love here in the Orville community, who comes a few days a week and mentors kids individually but directly for us.
So are there other programs or organizations that OHuddle partners with in the community, or is it
Absolutely. Yeah, we're all about being collaborative. It's about being in a huddle. And so we're not trying to do all things. We're trying to make sure that kids have access to all things. As we're walking into the summer, definitely in the season of what makes sense for you to have constructive use of time over the summer. And if a kid, the flame in OHuddle is representing the spark of interest. Everybody has something that sets them on fire, whether it be, the supernatural or animals or sports or art. What is the thing that really lights you up? And so we leverage that to say to a student, so now how are you going to, as somebody who loves horses, have constructive use of time over the summer? Would you welcome a scholarship to Stir Up to Courage? Can we get that running for you? Can we talk about what transportation looks like relative to that? You are going home to an empty house. Are you going to Boys and Girls Club? Have you thought about doing that? Can we get the paperwork going? Can we walk that over to the adult in your house who has to sign it and start to talk about the logistics of that? A lot of kids have adults that they live with that are overwhelmed, especially if you're living below the poverty line. We know that life is coming at you fast. And so being a part of the huddle that says, how do we look at that matrix of all of the good things that we have, including food security and clothing security and youth programs, and make sure that children have access to that.
So where do the funds come for this organization?
Well, the reason that I couldn't find someone to engage mentorship all those years ago was because everybody would give me the feedback point that there is no money in mentorship, so it cannot be done. It's not Medicaid billable. There's not a pot of money that comes from the state or from the federal government for this. So yes, we know it's research-based. Yes, we know it's a good idea. No, it cannot be done. And we are kind of stubborn. I feel like I'm sometimes a stubborn person when I feel like something needs to take hold. And so we fundraise for everything that we do. We write a lot of grants that are not specific to us, but that we are applicable for. And we do hustle for it. We hustle to pay our staff of 21. We have a very lean budget. We operate off of what I call the stone soup model, which is if we can get something in kind, then that means we don't have to pay for it. And then we can use that to pay for high quality humans to govern the process. And so everything that we do from a fundraiser standpoint, we also make accessible to the students. Whether it be here in Orville, we have the amazing race coming up where kids can hit some of the stops that we have downtown on the neighborhood huddle. This is 40 different kiosks that are all over Wayne County practicing the 40 developmental assets. And when kids on the 28th of April are hitting 4 of those stops, they get their own tablet to be able to keep, an Android tablet that was donated by Pranky Romick to us, and a pair of earbuds. And that's incentivizing them practicing these adulting skills in real places. And it's also a fundraiser that helps to support the cause. So we try and get creative around how we do that.
So we have one of the kiosks here. It's down in our teen area. And as part of that, the students, when they come in, they have to ask us for an application, an employment application. And if I'm thinking right, they have to actually fill it out, whether or not they turn it in.
Correct.
So that they're practicing that life skill.
That's it. And, it's one thing to talk about that when you're in a school building with your mentor. And, kids are often very literal. If we're not generalizing that skill to a real place and you're not actually filling it out and having the stamina to walk up and say, excuse me, could I please have this application, and navigating through it, then you may not be learning that skill in a way that you can independently do it outside of that mentorship experience. And so we're really passionate about shaping that up so that whether it be, I know how to sign my name, I know how to balance a checkbook. When you're over at Mission Thrift, do you know how to tie a tie? If you're a girl or a boy, do you know how to tie a tie? And do you have a tie? If you don't, Mission Thrift will give you one to keep. If you're over at Books and Stock, which is reading for pleasure, is the asset that we talk about for that, all of the OHuddle kids will get a free book to take home for Books and Stock. And so we want to foster these skills in a way that it really resonates, but also in a way that connects those partners and provides a bridge of school is over at a certain time. Where are you going in the community that is a safe space that will really activate you feeling like you are a part of a neighborhood and a part of a community? And so we want to get them to the library. We want to get them to places of business that have agreed to let us trauma and poverty train them to know how to interact with a kid who might be starting the conversation in a way that they would not prefer. But how do we redirect that so that we can still land in relationship in that moment?
So when they graduate from your program, do you have a little ceremony type of thing? Or, I mean, obviously you're not handing them a diploma, but how do you
what we've grown to do,
that?
They're getting a certificate. They're also now getting a letter of recommendation from us so that as they're applying for jobs, this is one thing that you should include on your resume. This was something that was a positive. We, beyond that, give them an adulting binder that has many of the activities that at the high school level they've practiced with their mentor. I surely wish that when I was going to college, somebody would have handed me an adulting binder to say, how do I get the stain out? When do I really need to get my oil changed? When I'm applying for my first apartment, what do I know about my credit? Right? And so those are conversations that we need to have, but that also you're sending the kid off with. And when you pair that with the phone number of the mentor, what that turns into is a resource that is a human resource that guides them being a young adult too. And so the more adults in a child's life as they're turning into an adult that are positive relationships, that really shifts their focus of their sense of belonging in the community.
Yeah.
So is there any kind of stigma involved in this? Like, do some of the kids have mentors and then some other kids be like, oh, you need, whatever? Do they make fun of them? Or is it usually pretty positive across the board?
What I really value is going from the mental health world to the mentorship world. We've done a lot of work around reducing stigma for it so that people really see this as a nomination process. We really did. We know that it's so good for those kids living in poverty and those kids who have experienced trauma, but we have a very heterogeneous grouping now. Meaning that it's not all the same kids going through the same things. And so making sure that that population looks different and making sure that feels celebratory. We don't have a ton of kids who say, why, how, why would I want to be in this? Because they really know about it in their school building. And there are a lot of perks that come with it. When we're using you as being service to others, you might have this opportunity to also have this, giveaway that teachers are getting when we're doing an OHuddle hour in their building. It's giving them a sense, again, of that personal power so that they can see themselves as functional and helpful in that school system. And they want that.
And it's really encouraging and teaching them that building relationships with people is positive and important and not like frowned upon, that you have somebody who's, helping you that you can talk to. Yeah.
Very true. Very true.
On your website, do you have a donate option?
We do.
Okay.
Right at the top.
And do you have your 40, what was it called?
40 developmental assets.
Do you have all those listed on the website as well?
Yep, under the About Us page. And so 40 developmental assets is not a curriculum. I felt really strongly that we should not be sitting down and doing a workbook and worksheets, and it shouldn't feel academic, even though being academic is important. This has to be relational. And so it has to be, if we're talking about time at home, do you know how to sew a button on something? And so we're going to do an activity around that. How does that turn into making a stuffed animal for a kindergartner on the basis of a drawing that they've made? Then that's a new relationship that you're guiding. And when you see that kid in the halls, you are a point in time person for them too. So it's creating a braiding effect by taking these 40 assets that have 50 years worth of research around them and 89,000 people studied, and saying we know that these outcomes are apparent when we can foster these opportunities. And that's something that's very well represented on the website if people are curious about them. There are also one asset per, each of the stations. So if you are a parent who are saying, well, what are the assets and how do I foster those for my kids? A great thing to do would be to get onto the neighborhood Huddle site and to make sure that you are going around to the kiosks here in the county practicing those opportunities with your kids. It's open to everybody.
So since you're a data person, do you have the statistics or percentage of people that have graduated from OHuddle that come back and say, I want to be a mentor now?
Yes, we're just starting to have that happen. And that was a pipe dream of mine, was that someday we'll have a kid who turns around and says, yeah, I'm ready to give back. And so, yes, we have several students who were mentees who are becoming mentors. Something that has just launched in the past year or so is something we're calling Grow Huddle. And so because many superintendents want mentorship to be a K through 12 model, we were struggling with, if we don't have enough volunteer mentors at the secondary level, how do we launch an elementary school without cannibalizing the numbers from those other places and the volunteers to be able to spread it too thin? And so what we've done is we have started interviewing, training, and highly supervising junior and senior leader high school students to come down to the elementaries in something that we're calling Grow Huddle. And so this is a good feedback loop to get those kids ready for middle school. And there's nothing cooler than a high school student, right? right, to an elementary student, but it's also becoming service to others for those high school students so that they can, in a way that is meaningful for them and in a way they can put on applications and be leveraging towards college and experiences, be able to, in real time, during their school day, serve a student underneath them.
So do those students, do they have to be a part of OHuddle?
They don't, but we do have many students who were a part of OHuddle that went through the interview process that now are mentors, and we're so proud of them.
That's really cool.
That's brilliant.
I can't take credit for it. Matt Barris, our one of our board members, said, "What if we're struggling around this?" And let me name it Grow Huddle. We really like to make sure things feel cohesive from a brand standpoint. A lot of what we do is visually represented. So if we can make sure that people are understanding it visually, it helps them to be able to metabolize how does this all work so that I can be a part of it.
I spent a lot of time looking at your website, just kind of learning about the organization, and the board that you have is a very large, diverse group. It's like a dozen or so people from just different backgrounds and experiences. I just thought that was great. And I was looking at through some of the other staff and realized that I know a lot of the site coordinators just from the community, from people that you meet at the coffee shop or that come into the library. So it really is an interesting reflection then on the communities that you are in. Yeah.
I think what I feel so proud of in the team and the board is they are such genuinely great humans. A lot of times when you grow and when you scale, you'll get drama and you'll get, some levels of misunderstanding. And we have such a culture of seeking to understand and leveraging our gifts in a way that helps people to feel like they really are able to propel to the next step. And so board meetings are fun. Board meetings are curious, and we always come out with a new idea, like that one that Matt mentioned that has turned into a whole arm of our program. It's really such a privilege to be around people who are curious learners who want to make a difference in the world, and that's not every community has a wealth of that kind of mentality. So to have that as a cadre of people that I get to be around every day is something that I'm grateful for every day.
So you kind of touched on it. So in the summer months, do you guys have a setup that mentors can still meet with their students?
We do. We have field trips going into the summer. And field trips are always, number one, they're always linked to a location that we've determined as a safe space that affiliates with the neighborhood huddle. Secondary to that, we are using those sparks that a student has to make sure that we're driving and encouraging students to go to things that they will really enjoy. So we have a Miles for Mentors, race over at Rails to Trails, because we really want to get kids connected to Rails to Trails. They are such long, cool paths that you can bike and you can frequent over the summer months. And so how do we do a warm handoff of that to students so that they start to do that over the summer months? We have a field trip in the fall that is over at Mission Thrift, where a stylist comes and does, I love to thrift. And so how do you put together a capsule wardrobe for yourself for your first day back to school? And then Staples gives us school supplies, so that becomes your back to school outfit and school supplies. So our field trips are always about marrying together the opportunity for a resource that kids would benefit from, activating a spark of interest and providing a handoff to a location, and then also making sure that we are connecting them to each other and connecting mentors to each other so that they can know and get to know the whole huddle. And we feed them. Food always brings people together. Always feed them dinner. Got to feed them dinner.
I found that too. Food will bring in more kids for a program than not.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. And you mentioned healthy choices and having that be an element of the library. One of my favorite partnerships is Walmart this year. We had feedback from students, as we're always trying to get, hear from them. How can we get better? How can we grow? We're a grassroots nonprofit that's pretty agile because we don't have bureaucracy at a big level. So we say, what do you wish would be? As we're having conversations around healthy choices, what should we grow? And they gave us really strong feedback. You tell us about healthy eating, but our snacks are often not healthy because we were getting what was donated. And so we brought that to Walmart and we said, here's our problem. Can you help? And so every week they give us an entire pallet of food for our 715 kids that we're serving. And they are really good, healthy snacks that sometimes I didn't even know were on the shelf that then my family will go buy. So This actually yesterday we had a delivery, and it was, did you know that there are cranberries that are sour cranberries? So when you get craisins, but they have this sour coating on them now. That is, I snuck one and I ate it, and they were delicious. And that's a great example of something that a kid might not eat. I hate raisins. I'm not doing that. Cranberries, gross. Trail mix, yuck. Sour cranberries that are kind of like gummies, yes. And so how do we temptation bundle into that by hearing from our kids, talking about healthy choices, marrying in with a partner who's going to come and be the hero of this need that we have, and it turns into kids eating in a healthy way. And we're genuinely seeing a curve of that where kids are choosing to eat healthy things because we're getting them in with one bite at a time of something that feels like it's accessible to them. And then it's improving their outcomes.
Fantastic.
That's brilliant. Yeah.
So do you have anything else that you feel like you've not covered that you really want to make sure that you share?
As an organization that is always looking to be creative in the community, what I would say is sometimes people don't have a lunch break that they can give over the course of the work week. Sometimes they are not able to donate in the form of dollars, which is what we use to pay people. If you are somebody who has a resource and you're thinking, well, what could this use? Who could this benefit? And it's a found resource, we are pretty creative at being able to put that to a way that benefits kids. And so I would say that's a third way for people to get involved, is if you don't have time, you don't have dollars, but you have stuff, something that you would like to get in the hands of kids, we would love to hear from you, and you can email us at contact@OHuddle.org, and we'll partner in a creative way because we like to be creative with the community.
Awesome.
Thank you, Sara.
Thank you for having me.
This has been, Huddle is amazing. I didn't realize how big it really was. So it's really, really cool. Thanks for taking the time to talk with us. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
All right, so now it's time to talk about our May events. So we have quite a bit coming up in May.
It is a loaded month, that's for sure, at the library. I hope a lot of people come out and can participate in these things. So this coming Monday, the 5th, we have our cookbook club. They are doing a Mario Batali Big American Cookbook Club. And that's at 6 o'clock.
On Tuesday, the day after Cookbook Club, is our annual Ready to Learn program. There is a 6 o'clock session and a 7 o'clock. This is a time for kids who are going into kindergarten to come and do some fun learning activities. So you can register for that on our website or go up to the children's department or call the children's department.
On May 8th, we have our book club. That's at 10 in the morning, 6:30 in the evening. And this month's book is Lessons in Chemistry by Bonnie Garmis. It's a good one. I read it.
Is it? I'm glad. It was like a big book a year or two ago when it came out. It was very popular. All right. So then we will have a Saturday event following book club on the 10th is our spring plant exchange. That's from 10:30 to noon. We'll also have a master gardener there. You can come and bring some yard plants. Drop off if you've got extra of something. You can pick up something new for your garden. You can talk to the master gardener and get some
That's cool.
tips and stuff.
Thursday, May 10th, is the Teen Study Lounge. It's at 6 p.m., and that's a quiet place for kids to study and relax.
Yeah.
So that's just kind of like preparing them for their final exams for the
so
year.
Orville High School's final exams are the following week. So it's just a place to come. You can bring your notes and study, or we'll have some like quiet activities so you can just chill before your finals.
Nice. Where's that going to be set up at?
That's just going to be in our meeting rooms downstairs. Yeah.
Okay, great.
So after that, you can sign up for teen book boxes from the 19th to the 31st. So if you got a teen, doesn't know what to read, or wants to just get surprised with a book, sign up for that on our website, or you can come into the library and we'll help you sign up for that.
And then they'll be available the first week in June?
Yep.
Okay. What a great way to keep reading through the summer.
Sure. And then those books totally count towards summer reading.
Oh, double dipping
as
is
well.
the best.
Yes.
All right. And then Tuesday, May 27th, we have the sign up for the summer story times. This is a long stretch. Story time ended the middle of April, and it doesn't start back up until the beginning of June. So I know a lot of moms and babies and children are excited to come back for that. Also on that Tuesday night at 6 o'clock will be our last Adulting 101 with Jennifer. They're going to be playing bingo.
Yeah.
I don't know what that means as an adult, but that's cool.
I think it's an essential part of being an adult is playing bingo, right?
Is it? Okay. I've never played it professionally, so I don't know.
Awesome. As a reminder, we will be closed on Memorial Day on Monday, May 26th. So we'll all be enjoying our hot dogs in the sunshine, hopefully, that day.
Yeah, 3-day weekends are always nice.
It's great, yeah. That following Saturday on the 31st is going to be our summer reading kickoff. So we'll it's going to be a busy day. We'll have lots of fun games and activities, and you can come and get started on summer reading.
And the theme this year is called Color Our World. And we will be coloring T-shirts, right? They're going to be doing some tie-dye T-shirts.
Some T-shirt tie-dye. We're doing that day. We'll have lots of crazy fun art activities throughout the summer to go along with that theme.
Well, May is going to be kicking off summer with a bang, for sure. That's awesome.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, thanks, everyone, for listening. Come into the library, especially in May. You'll almost be surely going to be hitting something if you come in this month. Thanks so much.